This is a tutorial on how to make a pie chart in Google Sheets. First thing you're going to need to do is open up a new sheet. So go to your Google Drive, click on New. Right below Google Docs is Google Sheets. Go ahead and click on that to create a new sheet. I already have mine made, so I'm going to go over to that now. Next thing you're going to want to do is put a title in there, whatever the title of your graph is going to be. So add that into there. The next thing you're going to want to do, so you don't forget later, is click on the share and share it with Mr. Cackley. You're going to have to type out my whole name, so mcackley@godfreylee.org. Once you do that, you already have it turned in. With that out of the way, you're going to type in your data. So some things to know. Your first row here needs to be the titles of your data. So make sure that first row is your titles, and the Google will automatically put it on the chart, on the pie graph for you. Then you're most likely going to have two columns of data. This one is probably words, and this one needs to be numbers. It must be all numbers for a pie graph to work. I'm going to make two pie graphs and compare them. So I have three columns. So I'm going to compare A and B and A and C. Once you have your data in, you're going to highlight all of it and go over here to the right to Insert Chart. You're going to click on this Insert Chart, and you're on your way. Now there's two tabs here. There's the Data tab, which is the basic stuff, and then Customizing. We'll go through them one at a time. First thing you want to do is pick the right chart. So as you scroll down, you'll see many options. We want the pie. Remember, we don't want 3D, and probably don't want a donut, though I will show you how it's useful in one of the charts I'm going to make. This one, actually, I'll come back to that in a minute. So for now, we'll click on Pie Chart. You'll see a lot of the work is already done for us. When we go back to here, this allows us to change the A column for the data. This one allows us to change the B column. You're going to see in the next one, we're going to have to change it to C to do the other column. So that's pretty much all we have to do on this page. Now we're going to go over to Customize. Under Chart Style, you can change the background color if you like. I personally am just going to stick with white. You can change the font. You can make it 3D, but remember 3Ds aren't accurate, so we don't want to do that. Moving on to the pie chart. This is where I'm going to change it to a donut hole. You can change it to different size, 25, which I think is weird, 75, which is really odd. I'm going to go with a 50%, and I'll explain why. This kind of makes it like a bar graph, so this donut hole actually makes it easier to see what it is. Now we want to label our slices, so you can label them with the country names, or whatever your title is, the values, or the percentages, or both. We want to go with the values on this one because we're doing the GDP in trillions of dollars. It's not a percentage. Most pie graphs should be a percentage though. Next, our title here. Well, our title here is actually too long. It took the title from columns B and C, so I'm going to delete all the title from C and just leave it as the GDP. And again, you can customize all the fonts and such. I'm going to move on. Here you can change the color of individual pieces if you like. I'm going to move on. Labeled. For this, I want to label it on the right because I'm going to compare my two. So you can kind of move the labels around and play with different options here. Do not pick none. It must be labeled. And again, oops, if you lose your way, you go back here, click on the three dots to edit chart. We are done with customizing this chart. So actually I can close that. Now I'm going to move it out of the way a minute, because once here we can move it. I'm going to reselect my data, click on a chart again to make my second chart. Again, I want that pie chart. And for this one, I'm going to click off it and go back in because this seems to be a little bit buggy on this part. I want to change it to column C. So here's where I change it from cells in B to C, and it's not going to let me. So let's go change the title first and the legend. We'll come back to that. So this one, I want it labeled to the right. I'm sorry, the left. And for my title, I want to get rid of the B and just leave C. And for my slice label, this one I want percentage. So now I'm going to move my charts where I want them here, kind of side by side, so they look nice. And I still don't have the right percentages in here, I do not believe. You can click on a chart and hover over it to see. You'll see that this is the 14.6, and that is not what I want. So I'm going to bring it back up. We will try one more time to edit this. Change these to C. Now it's happy, and it's going to give us. So now we can compare the two charts and see which countries have the most money, GDP, coming in, but then which ones have the most debt as a percentage of the GDP. So, for instance, compare China and Japan to see some of the interesting features of what they are. The last thing you need to do is add a comment. So you can go to insert comment right here. And right here is where then you can write your description of why you chose the data you did. Going to the directions here, these three questions: why you chose this data set, why it makes sense in your interpretation of the pie chart. And since you already shared it with me, it should already be submitted. You are good to go.